Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the most thrilling and suspenseful movie recaps. Today, we're diving into the heart-stopping thriller movie, called Missing, which will leave you on the edge of your seat until the very end. The movie kicks off with a spine-tingling audio recording, from 2008. James, a father, is spending time with his daughter June, and we hear them laughing and joking. Abruptly, Grace, June's mother, intrudes and seizes the camera from James. Things take a sinister turn when James' nose starts to bleed, and the video ends. The scene transitions to someone editing the video, cutting it before the nosebleed, and saving it as last family trip in June's folder. But who is this person, and why are they deleting James' Google account? We soon find out that they're relocating to Los Angeles and trying to disappear. Fast forward to 2022, June is now 18, and dealing with the daily struggles of adolescence. Her mother is planning to go on vacation with her new boyfriend, Kevin Lynn, leaving June home alone with some strict rules to follow. During their conversation, Grace mentions a lawyer, Heather, who has a spare key to their house, in case June needs anything. June is irritated at the thought of being babysat like a child, but when her mother mentions emergency money, she can't help but pay attention. June immediately gives $120 from the emergency fund to her friend Vina. Things take an unexpected turn when Grace's new beau, Kevin Lynn, shows up and tries to bond with June. But before he can say much, Grace asks him to book an Uber to the airport, leaving June with mixed feelings about her departure. Despite her reservations, June's parents set off on their trip, leaving her to fend for herself. With June's parents out of town, she spends her days partying with her friends, consuming alcohol and draining her emergency funds. However, on Father's Day, June's emotions get the best of her, and she drinks herself into a stupor. As June struggles to cope with her dad's absence, she discovers a video of him on her camera and posts a picture of him on Instagram, wishing he was there. She wakes up the next morning to a messy house and the realization that she has to pick up her parents from the airport. But when June can't get in touch with her mother, she enlists Heather's help, and together they work to track her down in Colombia. With the language barrier posing a significant challenge, June relies on Google Translate to communicate with the hotel staff. June is in a panic, as she discovers that her mother and boyfriend are missing, leaving all their belongings behind in Colombia. With the hotel's CCTV footage set to erase in 48 hours, June is left with no option but to seek help. However, with no funds to travel to Colombia, she enlists the help of her mother's lawyer, Heather. As time ticks down, June becomes increasingly desperate for answers. She contacts the embassy and requests an agent to be sent to Colombia, to view the footage before it's erased. But with no jurisdiction in Colombia, the investigation stalls. June's frustration deepens as Park's request to access her mother's email for clues proves fruitless. Determined not to give up, June turns to Go Ninja, an online service for help. She hires a housekeeper in Colombia, Javier, who understands her pain and agrees to retrieve the CCTV footage. Meanwhile, June and her friend Vina hatch a plan to obtain Kevin's password by calling the customer service line of the website he used, pretending to be him. They also hack into Kevin's Google account, and it works. But what they find inside is both shocking and disheartening. There's no location data for the day before Kevin and June were set to fly back to LA. Even worse, the CCTV footage has already been erased. But June is determined to keep going. She learns from the hotel's cleaning lady that Kevin went to a hardware store with another American. Using Kevin's credit card data, she identifies 8 possible locations. Meanwhile, June discovers a photo of a mysterious woman in Kevin's email. She has the same email address he'd used to plan a meeting with a few months prior, Bunny Cake. As they dig deeper, Vina uncovers Kevin's list of blocked contacts, revealing he's a felon who swindled money from several women. Agent Park warns June that illegally accessing Kevin's account means they can't use this evidence in court. Undeterred, June begins her search for the woman behind the Bunny Cake email address, and after a few twists and turns, she finally finds her on Instagram. June discovers an email that leads her to the first conversation on a dating app between her mother and Kevin, and she finds a surprising revelation. Kevin and her mother shared a deep bond and had a genuine relationship, and her mother was already aware of Kevin's past, and he is genuinely in love with her. But the happiness is short-lived as June receives a shocking video from Agent Park showing Kevin and her mother being kidnapped right after the romantic proposal. Desperate to find them, June scours the internet for clues and finds that Kevin and her mother left a lock bearing their initials at the Love Lock Bridge. June asks Javier to locate the lock, and her hunch proves right. Kevin Lynn and Grace's names were padlocked on the bridge. As June watches the live footage, her heart races as Kevin pulls out an engagement ring and proposes to her mother. But as the couple rejoices in the joyous moment, June's phone suddenly buzzes with a recording from Agent Park. June feels her stomach drop as Agent Park also reveals a suspicious transfer of money from her mother's account to an encrypted third-party account. In an effort to make sense of the situation, she revisits the messages Kevin had sent her. June's investigation takes an unexpected turn as she discovers that the woman in the pictures with Kevin wasn't her mother at all. The woman in the pictures is Bunny Cake, whose real name is Rachel Page. The FBI holds a press conference announcing that Grace Allen is still in Los Angeles and had fallen victim to Kevin's scheme. It's believed that Kevin had hired Rachel to impersonate June's mother, who had been kidnapped before reaching the airport. Even the Uber driver who picked up Kevin and Rachel was hired by Kevin, leaving no trace of their whereabouts. Later, the FBI discovers a group of students in Colombia who confess that Kevin paid them to stage the kidnapping. Meanwhile, Rachel Page, the woman who impersonated June's mother, is arrested, but she claims that she was hired as a call artist by Kevin to play the role of Grace Allen for a reality TV show. As the investigation deepens, Agent Park asks June if her mother has ever gone by any other name. June insists that her mother only went by Grace Allen, but the news reveals that this is just an alias for the mystery woman, whose true identity is sealed by a court order. Suddenly, June realizes that she never really knew her mother's true identity. Heather, her mother's lawyer, agrees with June's assessment that Grace Allen was not her real name. June's world turns upside down as the revelation of her mother's mysterious identity goes viral on the internet. While many speculate that Grace may have been Kevin's accomplice, June refuses to accept such rumors and decides to take matters into her own hands. She digs through Kevin's encrypted messaging app and pretends to be him to uncover the identity of his latest chat. To her shock, she discovers that the number belongs to Heather's office, her mother's lawyer. Without wasting any time, June heads straight to Heather's office, recording everything on her smartwatch, hoping to finally get some answers. Upon discovering Heather's necklace scattered on the floor, she delves into the storage room, only to find Heather's lifeless body. The FBI suspects that Heather knew something that Kevin was trying to hide, but with Kevin still in Colombia, the killer's identity remains a mystery. As June listens to her mother's old voicemails, she remembers her childhood nickname, Junebug. She tries logging into her mother's Gmail account with the password, and luckily, it works. June discovers her mother's last location and finds that the data was lost near the Los Angeles airport. Additionally, she finds a blocked email that says, "She deserves to know." June's heart races as she delves deeper into the mystery surrounding her mother's disappearance. She uncovers a clue that leads her to a rundown, abandoned house, one that she recognizes from her childhood. As she watches footage from security cameras Kevin had set up for an unknown recipient, she realizes the house has played an even bigger role in her family's past than she ever could have imagined. Just when June thinks things can't get any more complicated, she receives a call from Kevin's church friend, Jimmy, who claims to have information about her mother's whereabouts. But when Jimmy shows up at her doorstep, June is taken aback. Her father James is there, who she hasn't seen in years. James reveals that June's mother was not actually Grace Allen, but Sarah, and that he was wrongly imprisoned for 12 years due to false charges orchestrated by Grace. He claims that Grace took June away from him and wants to keep her away forever. June is torn between believing her father's story and fearing for her safety. Her suspicions grow when James admits to having met Kevin in prison and reveals that he had everything planned out before Kevin even met Grace. Just as June tries to call for help, James kidnaps her and locks her in the trunk of his car. In a shocking turn of events, a playback video from 2008 shows June playing with her father. It is shown that her father was not the man she thought he was. He was not only a drug user but also an abusive husband and father. When Sarah finally reports James to the police, he threatens to find June. Fearing for their safety, Sarah decides to take drastic measures to keep June safe. She changes her identity to Grace Allen and severs all ties with her past, including her family. The only person she can trust is her lawyer, Heather, who helps her navigate this difficult situation. As the story unfolds, it is revealed that Grace had tampered with the original recording to hide the part where James had assaulted her. In the present, James has taken June to a remote house, tied her up to a chair, and kidnapped Sarah. With a loaded gun, he storms into the hut, ready to exact his revenge on Sarah for keeping him away from June for 12 years. Sarah puts up a brave fight and manages to knock James in the face, locking him in the shed. Meanwhile, James frantically shoots at the lock to break free. As the situation becomes increasingly dangerous, Grace finally arrives and finds June tied up to a chair. Sarah explains that James had killed Heather to cover up their past. June and Sarah's attempt to escape from James proves futile when he catches them off guard and locks them up. As if that's not enough, he starts digging a grave for Sarah, determined to end her life. June's panic turns to hope when she remembers her smartwatch and quickly reaches out to Javier for help. But just as she thinks they are saved, the line drops, leaving them at James' mercy. With no one else to turn to, Sarah stands up to James, placing herself between him and June. But the confrontation turns deadly when James shoots Sarah, leaving June to fend for herself. In a desperate attempt to protect herself, she fights back against her father, but he easily overpowers her. Just as all seems lost, Grace comes to the rescue, wielding a broken shard and stabbing James in the neck. June remembers that she had told her mother to stop using Siri at the beginning of the movie, so she uses Siri to contact the police. With a SWAT team's help, June and her mother are saved, but not before James takes a fatal fall. The story becomes a Netflix episode, and months later, June is in college, and Grace has made new friends. The incident made June realize how much she values her mother and their time together, and the film ends with Grace and Javier forging a new friendship. If you enjoyed this recap of Missing and want to stay up to date with future movie recaps, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching.